Hi everyone, this is Vivian. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have Amanda here with us today. Hi Amanda.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Amanda, before I jump into letting you to retrieve yourself, who are you? Um, Thank you for being here today because we are having a very interesting topic about being laid off. Just would like to ask you a quick question. When it comes to being laid off, this theme, how would you describe, or let's say, if people telling you that, oh, they were being laid off, what are the first feelings of reactions that you usually see?
Well, it's a human experience, right? And so every human will react differently. And some people are more quick to be angry or upset or a variety of things. People may shut down depending on how their nervous system is reacting. But most people also, when laid off initially, they tend to take it personally.
Okay.
So they think immediately, oh, well, what did I do wrong? Despite it being maybe a business decision only linked to like a strategic plan or budget or something that's totally not related to performance, most people do get that thought, oh, what did I do wrong? And sometimes people sort of dwell in this. But we'll
Okay.
talk about some things, so that you don't dwell in that and that you're able to move on and bounce back from a layoff.
Rounding back to our audience, why I picked Amanda to be our guest and why is this topic being discussed? Because both of us having a background as a career coach, but adding top of that, Amanda actually have an identity. So tell us, Amanda, what are you? Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I am Amanda Gill. I am a certified Canadian counselor, awaiting my designation as a provisional psychologist with the College of Alberta Psychologists. So I have an experience, a personal experience with a layoff in that my past career was actually in marketing as a marketing coordinator in the field of recreation and wellness. So after being laid off 5 years ago, I did a career transition, and now I'm happy to say that I am a practicing counselor in private practice.
I'm curious because I do see people when it comes to laid off, they try not to mention, no matter it's like with their friends or even like mentioning on their LinkedIn, they kind of trying to keep it low profile. How do you think about this? And do you think this is a good way? Or yeah, I just would like to hear some of the insights from your view.
Yeah, and everyone has their own way of reacting. Some people want to share, and actually, that's part of the stage of grief. So, if you think about losing a job, it can be comparable to losing a loved one, and it is a form of grief. And there are 5 stages of grief in that people process events or a loss in their life. And so everyone moves through those stages differently, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of the time, people will be in the first stage of grief initially, and they'll be talking about, they'll be in a denial state. So they won't be talking about it because they're
Right.
not accepting it yet. So if someone was just laid off and they go quiet on LinkedIn for 3-4 months, that's completely normal.
Okay.
Um, and that is them processing. But after the denial phase usually comes anger. They'll get some emotions out. This is where we recommend that someone see someone like a professional to talk about it, or
Okay.
to talk about it with a friend. And once they've processed through those emotions, comes the bargaining stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people want to share, and they want to be validated, and so they often share their story. This is a stage where they're really reflecting and doing some internal work, where they're looking for some meaning, and they're starting to contemplate moving on. And
Mm-hmm.
then so the final stage of grief is acceptance. And this is where you might see people come out. This is where you might see people out and about in the community. You might see them more active on LinkedIn. They might make a sort of a testimonial post on LinkedIn.
Right.
And the idea behind being a supportive person is that at whatever stage they're at, I encourage people to reach out, understand that like also they may be quiet and they may not want to respond, but being that support and validating their feelings. The last thing we want to do as a supportive person in someone's life, if someone in our community gets laid off, the last thing we want to say is, oh, it's okay, you'll get over it. Like dismissing their emotion is not helpful. But to wrap up and to go back to answering your question, yes, it's normal for people to have different reactions.
Right. Because losing a job is really tough. Is there a suggestion? Let's say one small step that individual can take good care of themselves at the early stage, because eventually, I mean, that individual have to do their self-healing, right? And I understand, because like if being angry or in the bargaining stage, it might be affecting their people surrounding them. But any message that we can tell that particular individual to take good care of themselves, but at the same time not like giving them too much pressure. How can we handle with care?
Yeah, and handling with care, and if you're already saying and being cognitive that you are trying to express care, you really can't do too much wrong. But it's important to encourage people to take care of themselves, especially after like an event like a layoff. And self-care looks different for everybody. There are a lot of supportive self-care methods that people may feel comfortable with. This could include like deep breathing, meditation. Lots of people like listening to music. People like going out for walks or exercising. Some people also, it would be completely normal to go into some non-supportive self-care coping mechanisms, which could be like overeating or fidgeting or pacing, or even just like oversleeping or completely not having a routine at all.
Right.
But as long as they're aware of their self-care practices, they can find a routine. And it's really helpful to adopt a routine when you're not when you're out of work. So when we're going to work, we are used to a routine, getting up in the morning, having a purpose, showing up, being in a social environment. But when we're laid off, there's a lot of isolation that can happen. So it's recommended to have a routine, like have a purpose to get up in the morning, even if it's not to go to work.
Sounds like keeping themselves like busy in a sense, but then engaged.
I have had friends or colleagues that have been laid off, and honestly their schedules seem more busy when they're laid off, because they're doing things. They've joined an association, they're doing informational interviews, maybe they're volunteering, maybe they prioritize family or something else that's important to them. So yeah, having a sense of just getting up for something and getting up and dressed and going out to do something, that really helps with self-care. And and you talked about being a supportive person in someone's life, encouraging self-care together. Like, for example, encouraging to meet that person who got laid off for a coffee. Maybe it's like on a regular basis. Maybe it's like to go out for a walk, or just have some moments of connection. Maybe it's going out to play some games, or
checking in. But like sometimes I'm sure we come across as well, some of the client, they are introvert. So introvert, they kind of sense that, I need some self space. They need the isolation. So is there any kind of like red flag wording from their surrounding people not to mention? Or because if we are like giving too much encouragement, might be have another another way of the effect. So how do you think about it?
Yeah, so the last thing we want to do is be too hovering over someone. And I think that a good rule of thumb in grief is to reach out.
Okay.
And be understanding that they may not reply back immediately. They may take a while. But there's no harm in reaching out to someone and saying, hey, like, I thought of you, and I had this idea to catch a coffee with you. I'd love to when you're ready. So really giving that that reach out and that opportunity, but not expecting a reply.
Okay.
Because understanding that they're going through something tough, leaving like an open door. So like I'd love to go for coffee with you. Like let me know when you have time. But if you don't hear from them, especially like the week after a layoff, that's totally normal. People are usually processing, and some people process quicker than others.
For sure.
Yeah.
In your experience, have you encountered or see any person that was being laid off, but then eventually they turn into something positive? Is there any successful story that you would like to share with us?
Yeah. Well, I think there's many. And I don't know if that's a good thing. That just means I've known a lot of people that got laid off, myself included. And I shared, my story in that I do feel like I'm in a really great place and in a career that's very aligned to me.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that. But I do know an old colleague who was also laid off. And funny enough is we had the same role. So we got laid off at the exact same time due to like an abolishment in the company. And what is amazing is they took some time to do a lot of personal development. I remember her telling me she was doing a course, she was obtaining some business skills, she was really growing her network, and she did art on the side. So she was in a professional role, and her like sort of hobby was an artist. And after being laid off, she was able to take some time, spend some time with her family, do those personal development courses, do some personal assessments, and then you know what? She launched a very successful art business in which she is doing full time.
Okay.
So her main source of income is a visual artist, and I have to say she's thriving. You will see her artwork all over Alberta and even across the country, actually.
Wow, amazing.
And in Europe. So, I think the key to that success story, in my opinion, and my professional opinion too, because I do assessments for people doing transitions, is or I would provide them with tools. I don't actually do the assessments yet, but is that taking time to understand who they are, build what they're good at, what their values are, what they want to do in their future, what's important to them, and then making that decision. So she was able to do that and then bounce back even stronger.
Yes, I can tell. Wow, across the country and even Europe can see her masterpiece.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure both of us has been given different advices for people how to like circle back with their career. But then I would like to twist the question a bit, as in, should every one of us being prepared that we might be being laid off? Should we have this mindset?
Well, I think you can think of it in two ways. And having the mindset that you are going to get laid off, we wouldn't want that to be a negative connotation. However, if you flip that and think of it positively, which I always do, I have to say, is that, after my experience, is that it can be a positive thing in that you always act as an entrepreneur. So if you're or an entrepreneur of your own life, and that's why I say after you've been laid off, take some time to really rebrand yourself and create a really strong personal brand.
Right.
And that might be on your LinkedIn, that might be how you show up at events, that might be in many different ways on your resume. But if you can create a really strong personal brand, then you're highly employable to get another job.
Right.
Or
if things happen, right?
Or you're just like such a desired like employee, and people get to know you and want you to work. And so, yeah, it's healthy. It's healthy to have a backup plan, and it's healthy to think, hey, if I were to get laid off, what are my other sources of income? And a lot of us, I know both of us, like we have many sources of income. And I think in this day and age, it's possible to do that. And a lot of people do it. And so that phrase, not putting all your eggs in one basket, completely logical.
Right. Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing all the fruitful contents for today. I'm sure our audience will be benefit. So anyone, if you would like to reach out to Amanda, you can find her contacts below the description. And please follow my channel, and this is my channel description. Amanda, thank you very much for today, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
多謝收睇，歡迎你 subscribe 同埋 follow 我哋嘅 YouTube、Instagram 同埋 LinkedIn account。我哋下條片再見，拜拜。